Well, look, so we keep talking about China in different ways all afternoon.
Yeah.
One market, let's shift gears though. One market that clearly has been a darling of investors over the course of the past couple of years has been India. Um, and there's thoughts about what it's doing itself. There's elements clearly of an emerging consumer class. There's elements of a place that benefits from rewiring away from China, if you want to take that argument, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think from here? The stock market there has pulled back a bit. Um, is it an opportunity to step in and buy the dip, or are you concerned about the stories now done? Any thoughts on India?
I have a discordant voice in the chorus. We don't invest in China. In India, we do not understand what's going on. We do not see unity in policy. We are a bit concerned about Adani. And when we thought that the market had peaked in terms of earnings, it did 30% in this past year. So we are in overbought territory, quite likely. And surely, like Carol was mentioning, the venture capital and the seed series and the Series A, they are completely dried up, which tells us two things. It tells us that somebody must have exaggerated in the past, either in terms of euphoria or in terms of not really producing exact real value with their solutions, and that simply these companies shouldn't have really existed. So, and this was very interesting since 2022. We were seeing this movement of just drying up and a lot of companies, specifically in that market, just dying. All of this is pointing to, I would say, a development phase of the entire region. It might be that they're smartly politically positioned. The reality is that it's not really a contender to anything. It's an enormous market, sure, but it's not a contender in the global economy of anything of major, I'm going to say, threat. It doesn't really represent a threat to anybody. Buys oil from Russia on the cheap and tries to appease the Americans with the access to their own gigantic market, and then is trying to fight a little bit here and there on their borders with the Chinese, is everywhere, and it's not really a threat to the major powers. Okay, so this is our view. We don't invest in it, and even investing now would be a bit too expensive on something that we don't really understand.
Oh,
So that's it.
that fair enough. I mean, it is interesting because I think generally speaking, I hear many more bulls on India than bears, so it's interesting to get that point of view. I would say there are several more traditional bulls on India that I've had conversations with lately that remain bullish long term, but feel similar to what Carol, you and Juan have said from the standpoint of being sensitive on valuation currently. It's interesting on the political front too. There's a presentation actually at the Edinburgh Fund Forum with Evenco, with a notable Indian investor who had a pretty intriguing chart looking at economic growth over decades and what happens when there's a unified government versus a split government. It's far better when it's a split government than a unified government from the standpoint of um, uh, the government doesn't get in the way. um, and it's also interesting looking at how things have performed with those companies that are more oriented towards Modi policies versus those that are not. And just a couple nuggets just to look into if you're interested in the Indian markets.